Aloha, I'm Brickwood Galuteria. Welcome to Kupuna Power, a show dedicated to the health, safety, and well-being of our kupuna. Today, we'll be discussing elder abuse, specifically financial elder abuse. We'll also bring you a celebration of a jazz and steel guitar legend, my good friend Henry Allen, and his 80th birthday celebration. And we'll look at the Honpa Hongwanji mission of Hawaii's Living Treasures of Hawaii for 2014. Welcome back. Our guest is Wesley Lum, Director of the Executive Office on Aging. Aloha, Wes. Thanks for coming again.
Thank you.
Joining
Thanks
us.
for having me.
Number two. Let's talk about elder abuse. Now, I understand that financial elder abuse is particularly damaging to our kupuna. As a matter of fact, it's a very predatory environment we have here. So tell us, how is the state responding?
Well, I think most recently in the last legislative session, you're familiar with this, how the legislature changed the reporting requirements to have financial institutions report both to their county police departments as well as the adult protective services within the Department of Human Services. And that was probably one of the first best steps that we took to really expedite and to make sure that if not only to be able to respond quickly, but to be able to do the investigations that are necessary to hand it over to the prosecutor's office to be able to do what they need to do.
You know, interesting, at the state legislature, or even, not even on the policy level, or on the level of creating laws, but just on the human level, you wonder, my goodness, this environment that we're living in, we've evolved to an environment that is incredibly, shall we say, disrespectful of the elders. I mean, a lot of the people that we make the laws and hope they can enforce them are frustrated.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I agree.
Some of the jurisdictions.
Yes.
Right out of reach.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I think that in addition to that, you know, we want to do as much as we can to educate, right, and to prevent people and to get families to get involved. But at the same time, you know, we want to enable our seniors to make choices for themselves, to be independent, to empower themselves. And sometimes, you know, when we come with that philosophy, it also allows them to make bad decisions, right? And this is one case where we want to empower them to do what they want to do and be happy and make sure that they have a great quality of life. But it's also on a real human level, where do you actually step in to prevent something from happening?
Well, you know, like we know, we come from Hawaii. There's so much aloha over here. We want to give our seniors all that they need to continue the quality of life that they've come to give us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a time where you got to just kind of like step in and say, oh, hold on, Auntie.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the frustration for the law enforcement guys who need to go out and make sure these laws are enforced is that some of these financial scams, shall we say, come from either out of Hawaii, which means that they got to now work with another state, or out of country.
Yeah.
Which means that now it becomes a federal type of situation.
Yeah.
As far as the state is concerned, who can we call to get more information about, what the options are to either stop or prevent? I think what we're talking here is prevention, make better choices, or intervention.
Correct.
So in terms of prevention, who would we call? In terms of intervention, who do we call?
For prevention, you can call our office at the Executive Office on Aging, 586-0100. We have brochures, pamphlets that help identify what you can do to prevent anything from happening to you. But if it's an intervention, it's best to call the Adult Protective Services within the Department of Human Services.
I think another point I wanted to bring up is it's okay to admit that something's wrong.
Exactly.
A lot of times, talking about human condition, pride is a part of the play, right? I mean, I may be a retired school teacher, I may be a retired successful businessman, but if my family finds out something's going on. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
right? I'm really embarrassed. What would you say
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't be. I mean, it's not worth the pride to have your financial situation worsen, and you know, it's not, it oftentimes. It's not just the pride, and it sometimes it's just your cognitive abilities also that put you in that situation, where maybe dementia is something that we need to also take into account of making these types of decisions. That may sometimes be the reason why they are making those decisions not to inform others.
Imagine that combination, right?
Yeah.
That combination. Because when we're talking about aging and aging with grace,
Yeah.
there's so many different dynamics that we're talking about. I think that's what this show is all about, though. We want to make sure that people know that there are options to go to. There are helping hands out there. We want them to reach out to your family, reach out to your friends. In fact, you know, the community, I noticed there are a lot of Kupuna who now are proactive in this area. So we want to keep them coming to you.
Yes, please.
And we want to thank you again for joining us on Kupuna Power.
Of course, my pleasure.
And it's open door policy, okay? Aloha served here. Okay,
Thank you.
you, Weslam. Weslam, Executive Office on Aging. Yeah? Thank you so much for joining us. It's Kupuna Power. Up next, a look at jazz and steel guitar legend Henry Allen's 80th birthday celebration. But first, test your memory of local trivia with this senior moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the treasure, Henry Allen.
You know, I didn't expect this, so. And actually, I'm a guy with few words. I hardly talk. In any kind of conventions, I usually do the music and promotions with music only. So this time I'd like to really thank all of you for being here. It was a surprise thing for me to appear here. I'm very happy to see some friends of mine and that I haven't seen for many, many years. So thanks for coming. Aloha no. Oh, I'm fine. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Aulilaha now. Hey, good evening, everybody. From all of my colleagues in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, as well as the executive branch, I wanted to make sure that I came here tonight to present you with something. It is a proclamation presented to Henry Kalealoha Allen, whereas Henry was born in Hilo on Hawai'i Island and raised in Manoa Valley on Oahu. He started playing the ukulele in the 3rd grade, but his ukulele grew up, and later found his love for the Hawaiian steel guitar and jazz guitar. Whereas Henry went on to perform with great musicians such as Don Ho, George Benson. He worked in television and film, always promoting the spirit of Hawaii. I didn't know that you consulted with Elvis Presley at Blue Hawaii.
Yeah.
Wow. Learn something new every day. In 1971, Henry came back to Oahu and then moved to Maui, where he spent his time transcribing thousands of pages of music into an epic collection that he keeps in his home, and there's a lot outside in the front. He also produced 2 textbooks, one on the steel and one on the ukulele, which are housed at the Peabody Conservatory of Music at Johns Hopkins University. Whereas Henry Allen has been recognized by the Hawaii State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, he's also been recognized by the Hawaii Academy of Recording Arts and is recognized as a living legend of Hawaiian music. And today we celebrate his 80th birthday. So, on behalf of the governor of the state of Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie, the Honorable Neil Abercrombie, the Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Shansutsui, all of the senators, all of the representatives, we all do hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2013 as Henry Kalealoha Allen Day in Hawaii.
My mom played a little piano. My father played a little bit guitar and stuff. So that's where I started. I was supposed to go to Commandment School, which they never had an opening. So I went to Washington Intermediate, and I was lucky because I met the band teacher who read music and to help. So I learned from him. And his name was Tanaka. I went to McKinley after that, McKinley High School. When I went there, I studied with the symphony orchestra conductor. And I moved to Los Angeles when I was 20 years old to study jazz and music. I learned all the good music that jazz musicians wrote in Los Angeles. And it got me a start. I was really lucky to find the right people to help me in music. And most of all, I studied from piano players because they wrote a lot of music. So in LA, I went and studied with piano players. So that helped me today with all the Hawaiian music, stuff I write. I learned from the piano players. And so I always promote Hawaiian music. And the guys who write the music, that's really important. Whatever I'm doing today is what I'm doing is completely different from Hawaiian music. But everything that I've learned from Hawaiian music.
Henry Allen is Hawaii's great musician, first of all. We say that he's a steel guitar player. We say that he's a jazz guitar player. We say that he's an ukulele player. But above all of that, he's a great musician. I think the most important thing that I got from Henry is to live the music. He did tell me, that to read music, to know the lingo of music, to understand the music. He influenced me. He told me that teaching was probably the most important step after playing the music. As you know that Henry writes books, and that's living a legacy in his way. I now teach these students through his suggestions and through his influence. I have now begin to focus on teaching.
I've done many things, Woodstock, Janis Joplin, the Grateful Dead album, Van Morrison, Tupelo Honey album, Stan Can, Woody Herman, Tito Puente, Mongo Santa Maria, Tony Bennett, Herbie Hancock, Drake Charles, Dr. John. So the list goes on. And now I live in Playa del Carmen, which is the Mexican Caribbean, which is outside of Cancun. I live there, but I come from there all the way here to see my friend Henry and Sharon. Wonderful. Well, he's anywhere he goes. He's you get to a certain level. You can go to Germany, you can go to New York City, you can go to San Francisco. He has that level where he could go play anywhere. So he could play with anyone, and he has. Not only he can, but he has. And it's nice. The people in Hawaii are fortunate to have such a wonderful musician live here.
He is the only Hawaiian individual that I know of that on the level of what he produced intellectually, as far as skill in writing of music. He is the only man that I know has done it. No one has I've seen come to that level in his creativity, the things he has done in music. As far as we've gone into the producing of and perpetuation of the Hawaiian steel guitar. We just produced a steel guitar festival, Henry Allen Steel Guitar Festival at Kaanapali Beach Hotel for the last 5 years. One of my favorite memories is with George Benson. We were at the Nimble's restaurant in Lahaina, with all the top guitar players coming up to play with George. And Henry, and each one walked off the stage because they could not play with him. Henry was the only one that stayed on stage and played the entire set. He's very understated. He's not an overstated individual. He's a very quiet man, but his work speaks volumes for the kind of talent he has as a Hawaiian individual. I think that's one of the most important things, that who he is as an individual. And for Hawaiians, that is extremely important because we get stereotyped into a certain type of music. And that's the thing, he broke the barriers.
For me, what makes Henry special is his craft. He has lots of talent, and there are lots of other people who have talent, but what impresses me is craft. And what's special about craft is getting a little better every day. Here's a man who is technically a senior citizen now, but he's still getting better. He still sings, he still plays guitar, steel guitar and ukulele, and he's still getting better. You can hear him gigging, playing new stuff, thinking of new ideas on his solos. And I think everybody should aspire to be just like him when they grow up. He's played with everybody of his generation and a lot of younger generations because he can still hold his own with them. I'm impressed by that.
You know, when a Hawaiian has the opportunity to actually write the music, to understand the language of music, and to share it with others, it's fantastic. He's done it with the ukulele, he's done it with the guitar, and especially the steel guitar. He's got great connections and great people that love him, and yet for those of us who are just fans and those of us who are local boys or local girls, you know, he still has time for you. He takes the time.
For the better part of his life, he's been playing some incredible music, representing Hawaii throughout the world, and doing it in his own way, his own style. And I would say that, you know, Henry is one of the great monsters of music, but he's managed to meld a lot of different styles, mostly jazz, into not only his guitar work, but his steel guitar work too. So he plays a lot of really very interesting intervals that I think musicians like myself also appreciate.
Henry's quite amazing. I don't know if everyone realizes that he's also been not just an inspiration to the youth and the local community here, but also from parts across the ocean. Like George Benson has come to Hawaii, to Maui Island, to learn from and play with Henry Allen. I mean, that's such a huge credit to his talent.
You know, he can sit down and play in the garage and play with his local guys and jam, but he can sit Carnegie or a great concert hall and play with the best in the industry.
Abe Weinstein turned me on to Henry Allen, and we just started clicking together and working together, and it was really great because he was good to me, his wife was good to me, they respected what I do, and because I was feeling the love from Henry, I was able to be a seedling that was planted in fertile soil and grow as an artist because I knew that I had his love. Henry, I love you. I love what you do. I love how you, not only the way that you play, but the way that you spread aloha through jazz, through music. I love the gift that you've given me with all that love and all that music, and I am proud to be one of your little seedlings that sprouted and grew into a tree.
The willow bends, so do I.
How do you do with that senior moment question? Here's another test of your local trivia knowledge. Up next, Kupuna Power takes a look at Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii's Living Treasures of Hawaii for 2014.
The Living Treasures of Hawaii program was established to honor or recognize people who have been contributing a lot to the community, but who were not being recognized adequately. We felt that the Hongwanji, which had been here for some time, was still rather insular, and a lot of people didn't know about its existence, and we were not doing a good job to be a real part of the community. And so the Living Treasures program, which was started in that year, 76, was actually a way to get into the community. Charles Ken was selected as our first recipient, and it was a very simple program. We met in the boardroom downstairs of the temple, and
without any fanfare, the certificate recognizing Mr. Ken was simply handed to him with a brief but friendly "Here."
Since then, of course, many years later, we have a very elaborate program, and we have many people gathered for it. So it's a growing program, which we're very grateful for. The Living Treasures program recognizes anyone who considers himself or herself a part of the community, and includes also a wide range of interests and purposes, you might say. The criteria for the selection of the person has changed quite a bit, have changed. But earlier, it was a person who has contributed a lot who is not recognized. But now we have other things.
The selection criteria have become increasingly stringent over the years. The designee must satisfy 3 requirements. He or she must demonstrate continuous growth in his or her field. He or she must have made substantial contributions toward a more humane and fraternal society. And finally, he or she must have shown an ongoing striving for excellence in his work.
And they're doing all sorts of things, not only dancers and artists, but also writers and other creative contributors.
In the early years, cultural giants such as Lokalia Montgomery, Iolani Luahine, Johanna Clooney, Mary Kawena Pukui, Wright Bowman, Aldith Morris of Damien fame, a playwright, architect Alfred Price, artists Isamu Noguchi and Satoru Abe, and the great swim coach from Maui, Soichi Sakamoto, among the 200 treasures who have been recognized in the past 37 years.
I think the purpose of its founding has been satisfied so far. We have brought the community together, and the Hongwanji has in this program sort of insinuated itself into the community by recognizing people not only of the Hawaiian tradition, but of all races. The committee has enlarged to about 7 or 8 people, and each person has his or her own ideas about the person to be selected. And the community is asked to nominate also. So it's a very difficult project, and we have to give credit to all these very hardworking committee members.
When asked, "Are you a god or a man?" the Buddha replied, "I am awake." She also said that karma meant you couldn't get away with anything. I notice the laughs aren't so loud now. The living treasures are awake. The living treasures understand that everything that they do comes around eventually, not just to them, but to those they touch. That's why this program and these some 200 individuals that have been named so far celebrate, in my estimation, and I'm sure in yours, what it is that makes us truly human, that gives us the opportunity to understand ourselves as human beings. Part of the lessons taught by Shinran Shonin were as follows. Although my eyes, blinded by passions, do not see the brilliant light which embraces me, the great compassion never tires, always casting its light upon me. Surely the living treasures to be honored today embody that spirit. The light that they cast shines on all of us. So it is in honor of the mission of the Honpa Hongwanji that I present today at the proper time certificates, which will recite, of course, the summary that you have in your programs of what the living treasures have given to us, but also, in the name of all the people of Hawaii, recognize them and honor them for what they have given to us. I think it's quite possible for us to say to them, arigato gozaimasu, and of course, heiwa, peace. Thank you very much.
How'd you do with that senior moment question? And there you have it. I hope you like our show. Join us next week and let us empower and inspire you with more ways to improve your health, safety, and well-being. Tune in to Kupuna Power. Ahui ho, malama pono, and aloha.